Hey everybody, and welcome to Kensington Online. We're so glad you decided to join us today. If it's your very first time, I want to say a special welcome to you. Today we're kicking off a brand new series called Work Life, and we're going to be talking about how you can balance that and ultimately how you can leverage your work for a better experience for your whole life. So we're super excited about that. It's going to be a great series. Also want to let you know that Ryan Valdivia, he's one of our worship leaders here at our church. He's going to be leading music today along with Megan and Jen. So it's going to be a fun day there as well. And then at the end of the service, I'll give you a quick preview before we go in there. We're going to be ending with one of my favorite songs by Ben Rector. So we feel like it's going to be a great day. We're so glad you decided to join us. Also want to let you know that if you're not following us on social media, we would love for you to do that. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And that's really the best way to find out all the information about what's going on around here and more about who we are. So we'd love to invite you to do that. You can find us on all of those social media platforms. Well, I think we're about to get started. Stick around. We'll see you right back here in just a few minutes.
Good morning, everybody. Let's stand and sing together. Sing this out. I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing, but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my tomb till I met you. All right, let's sing this together. You called my name. Come on. And I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. Let's sing this out, church. Mercy has saved my soul. Now your freedom is all that I know. All right, let's declare it. The old made new. Jesus, when I met you, see you called my name. Come on. And I ran out of the grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. Yeah. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. Come on, get your hands up like this. Come on. Sing this out. I needed rescue. My sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter. I was an orphan. Now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future. My eyes are open, and when you called my name, I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your
I love that we can come and sing songs of hope in this place. What happens when we sing biblical truths over our life is that we remember what God has done and how free we can actually be in Christ. And that's a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. You can go ahead and take a seat. Welcome to Kensington. My name is Steffi, and we're so glad that you've decided to spend your Labor Day weekend with us. If this is your first time here, we're really glad that you've come to check us out. We exist to create a safe place for you to come and explore your faith. If this is your first time here, you can stop in the lobby. We've created an environment for you called The Hub. You'll notice it underneath the big orange banner. This is the best next step for you in finding out more about who we are. And if this is your first time and you don't want to stop at a table in the lobby, that's okay. We've created an online version of this environment called thehubtc.com. And you can log into that, and somebody from our staff will get back with you and answer any questions that you might have. If you're just coming in or logging in online, we're starting a new series today, and it's called Work/Life. Right now, I want to start by highlighting a couple events that are going to be happening around our campus. The first is our team night, and that's going to be September 19th at 7 p.m. This is for all of our volunteers or individuals who are thinking about volunteering. This is just the time for us to come together and celebrate what God is doing in and through our teams. It's going to be a great night. We're going to have music and a powerful teaching. We're going to break into groups to ignite and equip our teams for what's going to be happening in the fall. And again, if you've been thinking about volunteering and you're just not sure, this is one of the most fun and risk-free environments for you to just come and check it out and see what it would be like to be a volunteer at our church. So we just want to invite you to that. The last thing I want to highlight is our date night. That's coming up September 28th at 6:30 p.m. Who doesn't need a date night, right? This is going to be one of the most fun events for couples and married folks in Traverse City. We're going to have great music. Grand Traverse Catering is coming to provide a meal and dessert. And we're going to have here like life-giving teaching on dating and marriage. And it's just going to be an incredible night for you and your spouse or your significant other. So save the date, and we'll see you September 28th. With all that said, I would like to invite you to stand up and turn to your neighbor. And since we've been talking about date nights, ask your neighbor, what is your favorite activity for a night out? Is it going out to eat, going to the movies? My favorite is going bowling. Thanks, guys. We're glad you're here.
Hey everybody, this is Patrick, and I just wanted to say thanks again for watching our service today online and being a part of this community. Now we know that you might have some questions as you watch the service today and want to find out a little bit more information about who we are. And so we've created an environment for you to do just that. Simply go to startingpoint.today. That's startingpoint.today and fill out a short form, and one of our staff members will reach out to you very shortly and answer any questions that you have about our church and about who we are. Again, thanks so much for watching. We'll be back at the end of the service today to give you a little bit more information, but we'll see you here.
Well, what's up, everybody? My name is Ryan. This next song we're going to sing is about overcoming, making a declaration because of Jesus that we can overcome any circumstance. Let's sing this together. Here we go. Now the darkness fades into new beginnings as we lift our eyes to a hope beyond. And all creation waits with an expectation to declare the reign of the Lord our God. Oh, we will not be moved when the earth gives way. All the risen one is overcome. Oh, and for everything there's an empty grave. All the risen one is overcome. And now the silence breaks in the name of Jesus as the heavens cry, let the earth respond. All creation shouts with the voice of triumph to declare the reign of the Lord our God. Oh, we will not be moved when the earth gives way. For the risen one is overcome. Oh, and for everything there's an empty with this next bit, I just want to encourage you, if you've gotten victory over anything in your life through your relationship with God, let's declare this big time as a family. Come on, let's sing it together. He shall reign forever, strongholds now surrender, for the Lord our God has overcome. And who can be against us? Jesus, our defender. He is Lord, and he has overcome. He shall reign forever, strongholds now surrender, for the Lord our God has overcome. And who can be against us? Jesus, our defender. He is Lord, and he has overcome. We will not be moved when the earth gives way. You sing, for the risen one is overcome. And for every fear, there's an empty grave. For the risen one is overcome. Oh, we will not be moved when the earth gives way. For the risen one is overcome. Yes, he has. For every fear, there's an empty grave. For the risen one is overcome. Oh. Amen. Thanks so much for singing, guys. This next song we're going to sing together is called Living Hope. And it's one of my favorite songs just to sing honestly with you guys on a weekend or even at a render service. It's just so much fun when we all get behind this idea. And the main idea really of the song is the chorus. It says, hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. And if you're in the room and you've experienced that, man, I think it just would be so cool if we were all just belting it out, front row, back row, all of us at one time. And so that's my encouragement to you when we get to that part. Let's just sing it, man. And maybe you're not a follower of Christ and you're just scoping stuff out here at the church today. My encouragement to you is just scope out those lyrics, because really it's the centerpiece of our faith. It's the gospel story in a song. So you guys ready to sing? You guys ready? All right, let's do this. How great the chasm that lay between us. How high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness, your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. You're our hope today, Lord. Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. See the cross. The cross has spoken. I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm Jesus Christ, my living hope. Let's sing this out. And hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Sing that again. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Came the morning that sealed the promise. Your very body began to breathe, and out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your very body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Jesus, yours is the
Here's what I'm going to say to some of you and your... There we go. Yeah. Sorry. I need my spotlight. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. Hey, here's what I say to some of you. Some of you, it's your first time to church, and you're like, why are they so excited about singing a song about death? And I think this is what's so interesting about Christianity. And if you have questions about faith, really, this is the crux of both what we're talking about today and what we believe, is that we believe that through Jesus' death and his resurrection, that we have life. And it's from that that he's resurrecting every part of our lives. And what's great about, I think, this place is that you can come with questions, you can come with struggles. In fact, I think most everybody in the room has those. Am I right? If you attend church here, is that right? Like you just have questions and you have doubts and you have struggles. But for us, what we believe is that what's centered and what's rooted in all of that for us is that we believe that Jesus has met us here, right? And he has allowed us to experience something that is freedom, and he's allowed us to experience something that moves us in the direction of life that really we all want to go. So thanks so much for singing with us. Thanks so much for engaging with those lyrics, and you can go ahead and have a seat. Sorry, I'm a little excited. I'm highly caffeinated this morning. So I hope that's okay. Hey, my name is Patrick. If it's your first time, we're so glad that you decided to join us today. And you couldn't have picked a better week to be here because we're kicking off a brand new series called Work Life. And we're going to be talking about that in a little bit. But before we do that, I wanted to just highlight a couple things that Steffi said earlier and give you a little bit of a glimpse on what's going on. We talked about Alpha earlier. And Alpha is an environment that we have specifically for people who have just come to faith, or if you're someone who have a lot of questions about faith. And so you're like, like, you know what, I'm kind of skeptical, and I'm kind of like, I don't know about the whole God thing, but I'm at least at a place where I want to lean in, Alpha is a great place for you to explore those things. And so to give you a little bit more information about that, we have a quick video just kind of outline what Alpha is, and I'll come back and tell you a little bit more about it here in just a second. But let's check out this video together.
If you've ever wondered if there's more, you're not alone in that. We all explore, every day, in small ways and big. We find ourselves, reinvent ourselves, define ourselves, publish our lives. We find ways to stand out and ways to blend in. We meet people that remind us of us, and people that remind us of who we want to be, and people that just make the journey that much more fun. We connect and share. We learn from each other and grow together. We celebrate and mourn side by side. We push our limits, challenge ourselves, fall down and get back up again. Our days are long and our nights get short. We put in the hours in the hope of building something that lasts. And at the end of the day, find joy in the fleeting things. We want to squeeze all the life out of life and hit pause on moments we wish could last. Put simply, we want to live, and along the way, discover all we can, experience more, and find out who we really are. For all are searching, it's rare to find time to think and talk about the big questions of life. About faith, and reason, and God, and meaning. But exploring is good. We're built for it.
So Alpha is really an opportunity for you to ask some of those questions and be around people who have asked those same questions before. And so we'd love to invite you to do that. And I believe, Craig Lang, is he in there? I think there's food there. Is there right? Is that? There is. I was going to say, if there wasn't, now there is. That's fun because I said it from the stage. Whoops. But yeah, I think it's going to be great. So we would love for you to join us for that and to be a part of Alpha. If you have questions or if you'd like to be a part of that. And the way to sign up, you can do it online at kensingtonchurch.org, or you could go right out to the hub, which is right outside. It used to be Starting Point. We're calling it the hub. You can go out there and do that as well. The other thing I want to let you know about is I know Steffi talked a little bit about team night as well. And so how many people in the room real quick volunteer in some capacity at some point here? Can we just see it real quick? That's awesome. Look at that. So many of these people. That's great. So team night is going to be an opportunity for us all to come together as volunteers and really just kind of hang out together. Or if you're interested in volunteering, if you have questions about it, this is really a great opportunity for you to discover more about our church and what we're all about. So we would love for you to come to that. That's going to be September 19th at 7 p.m. Now, with all that said, I want to go invite our ushers to move forward. We're going to receive our offering today. And if it's your first time and you're new, this is really the moment of the service that I think most every pastor but me hates because there's a question that a lot of people have when they come to church, like, the church just wants my money. And I always kind of jokingly say that's kind of true, but not for the reason that you think. And here's the reason why, is we believe that when people come together to give, specifically like sacrificial giving, we're able to see amazing things happen. And so the church that I grew up in, I always just assumed it all went to the weekend or what happened on a Sunday. When you give to Kensington, you're actually giving to what we do locally here in Traverse City, but even bigger than that, you're giving to global partnerships that we have all over the world. And so a little over 500,000 people all over the globe are able to hear this message because of people just like you who give. And so we want to say thank you so much for being a part of that. Thank you for making this city better through your giving, and then making really the world a better place because you sacrificially give and you're a part of that. The other thing I want to tell you is that we announced this a few weeks ago, and it's something we've been excited about. I think I've been personally a little bit nervous about. We launched this thing called Forward in Leadership, and it's really a site where we post videos about leadership, and our hope has been that we would be able to launch this into our community and do workplace groups all over the city. And so I wanted to say real quick to you, we talked about it like on 2 weekends. The first weekend we talked about it, we were just going to do it once, and then you went to the website. Everybody went to the website at the same time, and you broke the website, which was fun. So thanks for signing up and being a part. And then we talked about it again, and you started sharing it. And so I want to tell you this. We've been able, through our soft launch of this, we've gotten just over 40,000 video views on this content. And that's people that have been watching all over the world have been doing this. So we wanted to say thank you so much for being a part of that. But secondly, I wanted to let you know that we have an event coming up where we're going to fully launch this out in our community. And that's coming up on October 4th. It's going to be our launch event. It's going to be at Red Ginger. And so if you are a tender and you're in the marketplace and you're a leader in that community, what we would ask you to do is we would love for you to come, but more than that, we would love for you to invite people to come to this as well. So it's going to be at Red Ginger. The cost is really just the cost of sushi. So you get food and you get all this, but it's really going to be a networking event. It's going to be an opportunity for you to meet other leaders that are going to be doing this and hear talk around that as well. So we'd love to invite you to do that if you're interested. You can go to forwardinleadership.com/launch to be a part of that, and there's a promo code that gets you the lowest price, which really just literally covers Red Ginger sushi, which I am way too big of a fan of. So it's going to be a lot of fun. The last thing I wanted to say, and then we'll jump into the talk, is I told you I was highly caffeinated, and I'm highly caffeinated because I haven't slept in a week, because we had a baby, which we're super excited about. Yeah, thanks. Yep, thank you. Yeah, I love that you're clapping, because I'm just going to take all the credit for it. It was all me, no, I'm just kidding. So I want to show you a picture. Is that okay? I was trying to figure out how to work this into the talk, but I figured I'd just do it for us. This is Eleanor Kate. She is our daughter. We have a 2-year-old son as well, and if you're like, oh, is he that guy? Yes, I'm that guy. So this is her. And then I'll show you a couple more. This is us in the hospital. And then Emily Ruby took these pictures. She did a phenomenal job. But yeah, this is us. And then my favorite, personally, this is her. It looks like she's cute, but she's screaming. But yeah, so Eleanor, she's here, and so we're super excited. But here's what I want to say to you. This is kind of like a moment just specifically for those of you who attend. I wanted to say thank you so much. You guys have called us and texted us, email. Somebody creatively Snapchatted us, which I'm new to. They did that, and you brought us food, and you've been there for our family, and I'll try not to get emotional. So if you don't know our story, we moved here when I was 28 to be lead pastor of this place, and Nick Toomey was the pastor of Bay Point before that, so we were part of an adoption, and so our family really, it didn't begin here because we were married for a couple years before, but it feels like it started with kids here, and so I wanted to say thank you so much for loving us so well. You just love us so well, and we're so grateful for that. Thank you again for the calls and the texts. I do my best to respond back, but I'm bad at it anyway, and so when I don't sleep, it's even worse. But anyway, I just wanted to say seriously, it means so much to us. Thank you for celebrating with us, liking the picture and clapping and thinking she's cute, but not as cute as I think she is. So anyway, thank you for doing that. So, all right, sappy moments are over. So today, we're going to talk about work. And so we're talking about a series called Work Life. And over the next 2 weeks, this week and next week, we're going to be talking about how you can balance those two things. But even more than that today, we're going to talk about a Christian, really, theology of work and what that looks like. So to get our brains thinking in that direction, we got a short video, and then we'll come back up and do this talk. So let's watch this video together. All right, so as I said, today we're kicking off a brand new series called Work Life, and we're going to be talking about work and what all this looks like. But before we jump into the content, I really wanted to kind of have a question for you that we could answer. Now, just for the next couple of minutes, I don't know if you grew up in church or not, or what kind of church you grew up in or not. When I grew up in church, we weren't allowed to really talk. Did anybody else's mom pinch them if they talked in church? Anybody else? So for the next few minutes, you're not in that church. Can we do that? So I need you to be loud and slightly obnoxious and scream, if that's okay, here in just a second, because I want to ask you a question, and we're going to write some of these answers on the board. But the question for you is this: what was your very first job? You remember your very first job? All right, so let me hear you. Just shout it out as loud as you can. Paperboy? Is that what you said? Paperboy? That with the bike? Did you like the bike? And yeah, that's all. Paperboy. That's good. I'm going to put an eye on it. I don't know why. It just felt right. Some of you are like, why is he caffeinated? Any questions you have today? Caffeinated. Cool. What's another one? What's that? Lifeguard. Any other lifeguards in the room? Yeah. Anybody save somebody as a lifeguard real quick? Wow. Both of you at the same time? No, I'm just kidding. That's awesome. Wow. Lifeguard. That's a really good one. Wow, I think we had 4 people in the first service that are safe people. That's great. What am I doing with my life? What did you say? A babysitter. That's a good one. Where are the other babysitters? Anybody else do babysitting? Yeah. Anybody hate every minute of it? Anybody? Yeah. It's different when it's their kids, isn't it? That's funny. Cool. Somebody else. What else? What did you say back there? Pizza delivery guy. Hold on. Everybody, come on. Pizza delivery guys. Yes. Pizza delivery. That's amazing. I'm thankful for you, and so is my belly. That's great. What else? What other jobs? What did you say? Waitress. What about waitresses and waiters? We got any of those people out there? Yes. Anybody ever get angry at people tipping? Anybody ever get angry at Christians tipping? No, I'm just kidding. All right, so just kidding. What else? What other ones do we have? Drive-through. What did you say? Drive-through window worker? At like a bank? Yeah, I'm just going to put the big BK. Can we do that? That's fantastic. That's great. What else? What else do we have? Washing dishes. That's good. Yeah. That's currently part of my job at home. That's great. Emily cooks. I do the dishes most of the time. So what else? A couple more. What did you say? Working on a farm. Oh, that's cool. Goats? Sorry. Whoa, that got weird. Sorry. Yeah. Working on a farm. Yeah. That's great. All right, let me get one more. Can we get one more kind of outlandish, crazy one? What else we got? Your hands raised. Yeah, man. Well, what about you? Mowing your lawn. Anybody else mow lawns? Yeah? Anybody else, parents, teach them work ethic through lawn mowing? Nope, that was just me. Okay, great. Cool. Well, let me tell you about my first job. My first job lasted about 17 minutes. It was really quick. I worked at a laundromat, and I got there, and I was 15 years old. I grew up in South Carolina, and the way that this worked is, for some reason in South Carolina, they let you get your full license when I was growing up at 15 years old. And at 15, it seems like a great idea. On this side of 15, it's like, what is wrong with South Carolina? But anyway, so I did, and so my mom looked at me, probably like some of you did, and they were like, hey, if you're going to drive, then you got to get a job. And so I got a job, went to this laundromat, and I walked in, and she starts walking me through everything that was going to be my responsibility, and it did not go well at all. And I kid you not, she looks at me, she goes, I just don't think this is for you, right? That's how quick that went. And I went, okay, so I went home, and then after that, what I did, I decided I want to work for myself in high school. And so what I did is I started recording punk rock bands. Anybody remember punk rock music? You remember this? Like Blink-182? We'll just stop there. Anybody? Yeah. So I would record these punk rock bands because they all wanted demos. None of them were good. None of these people were good. But I would record them and take all of their money. It was great. And so I did this, and they would play, and we put out these little EPs all over the place, and it was fun. And that progressed. Like, I enjoyed that part of it. And then I got to college, and I decided that I was going to be what I think you said. I was going to be a waiter, and I started working at this steakhouse place that will be unnamed. It wasn't Outback, but I started working at this steakhouse place, and I got there, and I was just, again, really bad at it. I mean, you just gotta, like, for those of you waiters or waitresses, you just gotta keep up with a lot of things, and you have to be really good with people, and you have to keep up with a lot of things. And so I wasn't on the job very long, and then this kid came in, and he was with his family, and he ordered a shrimp skewer. You know what I'm talking about, with the little metal rod, and I didn't know that they cooked that on the grill. So you can see where this is going. And so I went to take it off the plate. I put my finger through the hook, and it burned me very quickly. And I threw it towards the kid, to which the parent yelled out words that were not very good. And then that job didn't last that long. And here's what was so interesting, though. I got there, and something happened for me for the first time in my entire life. I started working for somebody that I didn't like, right? I didn't like this person at all. And I had a friend there, and my friend's name was Hector. And why I didn't like the boss is he was somebody that would just try to embarrass people if he got upset with them. And so there was a day he would do that. This guy named Hector, who was someone who would bust the tables. He would make fun of him in front of everybody, say terrible, terrible, demeaning things. And then one day I got in his not great, graces in front of the entire restaurant. He did the exact same thing to me while I'm standing next to my friend Hector. And I never forget the thought that I had. I'm standing there in this, is it apron kind of thing? And I'm kind of, frustrated. And I thought to myself a question that I thought before. Like, it's not a new question, and it's a question that most of us have probably thought at some point. But I thought, is what I'm doing, right? Is this work actually important, right? So it wasn't where I wanted to be. It wasn't what I wanted to, do long term. It wasn't really something that excited me. And not only did it not excite me, but now I'm working for somebody that made me really frustrated and angry, and it seemed like they were a terrible boss, and they yelled things, and he was really, really tall and just over. Like he was angry. He was angry at everything, and I just didn't like it. And I thought to myself, this isn't what I want to do. This work doesn't feel important. And then for the first time, at least for me, because probably part of the way that I was brought up, I just found myself disengaging completely from the work itself. Right? Now, I still did the job, but my heart wasn't in it. I was disengaged completely. And what I started doing in my mind, right? I don't know if you've ever done this. I would start prioritizing the work and the tasks based off of what I thought would get me further along to where I wanted to be. You know what I mean? Like I started looking at it in terms of categories rather than work that actually mattered. Now, I think that's probably true of some of us at certain times. It's not you all the time, but there are moments where I bet we could all say that we've done that, even in jobs that we love. We can say it this way, that we categorize work and often determine our effort, excellence, and passion based off of its perceived importance. So if I perceive something to be important to me, I'm going to tend to lean in and engage further. But if I don't think it's important, or if I don't think it really matters that much, or if I don't think that it's something that's really worth my time, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just feel like I disengage from it. Now, there are things that kind of lead us to more fully engage or think that it matters. One of those things, and this is true of most of us, and this isn't a bad thing, but if I can acquire quite a bit of money from it, then oftentimes I think that it's important. Like I will lean in even if I don't love the job. Like I'll lean in even if I feel like I don't like a manager. If I'm getting a lot of money and that's part of what's going on, I feel like I can lean in and engage more. The second thing is perceived influence, right? Some of you've been in jobs before that you hated, but you enjoyed the influence you felt like it gave you, right? And then the other one is climbing some sort of ladder. Some of you were an intern for a very, 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 very long time, because you stood as an intern looking up at whatever was above you or, whoever the boss was above you, and you just believed you could do it better. And you believed that one day you would just kind of surpass them. And your fantasy, even though you would never say this out loud, was that one day you were going to be their boss. You know what I mean? Like one day when I have the reins, I will tell you what's up, And this perceived climbing the ladder gives the work in some ways this importance to what you do. Now, the problem with this is that most of the time, at least especially the people that I talk to, most of the time when it comes to work, especially if we're unhappy in our jobs, it ends up being this kind of inward focus when it comes to all of this. We are focused on what? We're focused on ourselves. That our work, no matter what it is, it could be any one of these jobs, it could be something that you are passionate about, it ends up being this inwardly focused thing. That if I'm happy, then I'm gonna do more. If I feel like it's taking me to where I want to be, I'm gonna be more engaged. And what happens is the way that we work is really determined by the way we feel about the work that we're doing. But the problem is that you're gonna spend a lot of your life working. Like, let's take the average Joe just for a minute, right? The average Joe, say they work from 20 to, age 65 years of age. Say they roughly get 2 weeks off every year. That means that through their lifetime, they're roughly going to work about 90,360 hours. 90,360 hours of work that is focused on self. And what can I get from this? Where is this going to take me? How much money can I accumulate? And you just do this. It's like you're just bringing it all in. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. The bad thing is that you could spend those 90,000 hours focused like that and get all the money you could have imagined and all the influence that you could imagine, and eventually you make your way to the top position, and the only person that you even answer to is the board of directors, but that's it. Like, you finally found the autonomy you wanted, and you finally get there, and you still feel empty. Your importance in terms of the job that you do and the work that you've engaged with was never fully there because it was so inwardly focused on you. Now, the truth of the matter, and in the back of your head, you probably know, this isn't like a new thing, you probably know this, but no matter what you do, lifeguard, washing dishes, mowing the lawn, Burger King drive-through worker person, no matter what the task or job is, it's never just about you, no matter how you focus it. It's actually about others. And you can ignore that, and you can push back on that, and you can kind of remove yourself from the emotional angst around that. But the truth is that the work that you do reaches beyond you. In fact, until you actually acknowledge this and actually allow this to become a part of your life fully, right, you will never find the importance of your work to be as high as it could be. The work that you do has value because you have added value to someone else. It illuminates who you are and what you believe about life and about others and about what you feel like is important in your life. Now, one of my favorite writers is a guy whose name is Simon Sinek. He was part of a marketing firm for a long time. Then he wrote several books that, really did well, and, New York Times bestseller, just great thinker. And he has this quote about work that I think is so incredibly important, and it just I feel like it opens up my heart when I read it. Here's what he says. He says, "Your work is your own private megaphone to tell the world what you believe." That the work that you do, whatever it is that you do, is your own private metaphor to show the world what you believe. Now, if that's true, right, then the way that we work and how we approach our work becomes extraordinarily important. So I'm going to ask you a question here in a second. Before I do, I want to say one thing as a caveat. Can we do that? And this is going to be something that's going to make some of us uncomfortable, but I kind of enjoy that. So here's what we're going to do. For those of you who are not followers of Jesus in the room, you disengaged from church and you haven't been a follower of Jesus, or your wife drugged you here, or somebody promised you food afterwards. What I'm going to talk about over these next few minutes is going to feel like I'm talking you out of following Jesus, right? Because what we're going to teach on is actually so countercultural, it doesn't feel like it resonates. In fact, it feels like it shouldn't be the way that it is. In fact, it almost feels like for the next few minutes, it's going to feel like I'm talking you out of following Jesus altogether. And I want you to know, that's okay for these next few minutes. For these next few minutes, what I hope for you is that you just open, your mind, you're here anyway, enough to go, what if it's true? And then number two, here's the other part. Imagine what would happen if what we talk about over the next few minutes, every Christian or proclaimed Christian that you've ever met lived their life in the way that I'm going to talk about for these next few minutes. Imagine if every Christian that you ever met actually had applied what we're going to talk about for the next few minutes. You may not be like, I'm all on board on faith, but you were like, I would love to at least work with those people. Because what Jesus teaches and what the New Testament teaches about faith and about how we work and the way that this goes about our lives is very different. But I just want to give you a caveat. This may be one of those weeks you walk out and go to Chili's or wherever you're going to go and go, I don't even feel like I want to go back. So that's great. So here's the question that we're going to talk about for those of us who are followers of Jesus. And I want to tell you, I'm talking to those of you who are Christians in the room, right? The question is this: how do we work in the way that God has called us to work? How do you actually wake up in the morning and drive to wherever you are, or wake up and put on your dress shirt and stay in pajamas for the rest if you work at home? You know what I mean? How do you do that in a way that honors God in the way that he's called us to do it? So we're going to look at a passage in Matthew chapter 5, and we're going to look really at three ideas over the next few minutes that either Jesus or the New Testament teaches about when it comes to work. And so we're going to start in Matthew chapter 5. This is Jesus talking to a group of people. Here's what he said, and this is a principle that is really fairly common in our world today. He says this: if anyone forces you to go 1 mile. Now, I love this, right, because it's easy to read over this and gloss over this, but he's actually referencing something very specific in the culture. He's referencing a practice that is called impressment, right? And the practice that he's referencing is one where a Roman soldier could look at a Jewish person during that time period and ask that Jewish person to carry their equipment for what's equivalent of a Roman mile, which is about 1,600 yards, right? So any Roman soldier could pick out a Jewish person and say, I want you to carry my equipment for the next mile. And what happens in that moment is they have the authority to do that. And then the Jewish person has to take that, which oftentimes this equipment could even weigh as much as 100 pounds. They have to take that and then walk and drop whatever they're doing and walk and go do that. Which in this culture, in some ways, would feel demeaning, right? It feels like I'm serving a master that I don't even buy into. It feels like it's this demeaning sort of thing. And what Jesus teaches is that if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, he's going to talk about what should happen next. And what should happen next, from the way that they would have viewed him and the way that even in our culture today we would have viewed, a liberator coming and doing this on behalf of them. It'd be one where you almost feel like Jesus should have looked at them and say, if someone asks you to take their stuff 1 mile and they're a Roman soldier, have enough courage to look at them and say, I'll tell you where you can put your equipment, Like there should be this thing that says, no, don't ask me to do that. I'm not going to do that. You almost expect Jesus to get angry and say, no, don't do it. But Jesus' response is, again, very countercultural to the instincts that oftentimes we have. He says, if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, he goes on and he says this, go with them, what's that? Oh, come on. What is that? You don't even want to say it, do you? I don't either. Wait, you're saying, if a Roman guard looks at me, Patrick, I want you to take it 1 mile, and I have to, because I'm scared for my life. Jesus, you're telling me to go, thank you, but let me take it an extra mile. And Jesus is like, yes. And I'm like, Jesus, I don't know if you're right, you know? You sure? Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. You know what the phrase is? You've heard this before. Go the what? Extra. You thought some philosopher just came up with that. That was Jesus. Talking to a group of people who had been demeaned, subordinated. The Roman soldier asked you to do that. You go the extra mile. You go 2 miles. And in doing so, it's choosing to go beyond the moment to create this bond that almost feels invisible in the moment. Jesus isn't asking them to just do more work. He's asking them to build a bridge towards people who might be outside of the faith. Now, we hear that. You didn't even want to say it, and I didn't even want to read it, right? And Jesus' followers, people that would have been listening to this, probably would have had the same response. But you know what happens next? And this is the fun one. Even if you got over that hurdle and said, yeah, maybe the world should operate in a way where people go the extra mile. Immediately what happens next is you start having a face to the person that you don't feel like you should go to the extra mile for, right? Come on, can we just be honest, pretending you're not in church? How many of you have a face for somebody that you feel like at least you shouldn't go the extra mile for? I'm raising both hands and a foot, right? Right? Wait, we just feel that. That there are some people that just get on your nerves and they create angst in you and they gossip about you and they say things that they shouldn't have. And what they did is they manipulated a situation so that they could get above you and get the promotion and the salary that you feel like you should have, right? Or the boss that continually demeans you, or the person that feels like, you wouldn't say this this way, but feels like your enemy, feels like they're against you, feels like they are not for you. And Jesus knew that would have been like the next angst. Go the extra mile. Okay, I'll do that for the nice people. I'll do that for the people that I like. But what about fill in the blank? And Jesus goes there. Jesus goes, look, you have heard that it is said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, what does it say? Love. Now here's the part that I love. You ready? But don't just love them. What else do you do? What? Like, honestly, you don't have to answer this. When was the last time you prayed for the person who made fun of your kid? Somebody made fun of Henry one time. Now, again, I'm like a professional Christian. And I was like I'm ready to go. And I would have gotten taken. It would have been bad. But, there was a part of me that was like, I'm Liam Neeson. I felt it, I was ready. My initial response wasn't, dear God, sweet baby Jesus. It wasn't that. It was anger. It's just you know what you do with your enemies, right? Love them and what? Pray for them. And you know why you pray for them? You don't pray for them just be like, God, just send your lightning. It's not that. I'm going to step back. He's in your hands. You don't do that. Praying for your enemy creates a posture in your heart. It's not, God, change them. It's God, change me. Help me to see, this is really painful, help me to see them the way that you see them. And pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven, or that you may be like God, or that you might advance the kingdom that is bigger and beyond you. We get a version of this in Luke as well. Jesus says it like this in Luke chapter 6. He says, "But to you who are listening, I say, love your enemies and do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you." And you know what follows that? It's something that even if you're not a follower of Jesus, you heard, and your grandma, she got this in you. She said, "Do to others as you would have them do to you." Now, this feels like a really sweet thing you would put on a, really pretty board in your house, But the process of this is gut-wrenching. Jesus isn't just saying act in the way that you feel like you don't want them to act. Jesus is saying flip it. Project what you want for yourself onto this other person. Act as a way that you would want someone to act with you, but not just that, go deeper. Let your heart in some ways be shifted and changed. When you're looking at the person, you're actually looking at yourself, your brokenness, your pain. You know why? For those of you who are followers of Jesus, again, this isn't for those of you who aren't, but for those of you who are. Because the person who feels like your greatest enemy, the person who has manipulated things before, the person who has gossiped and hurt you and made you angry and the whole deal, you're like, they don't deserve grace. And I feel like at the same time, the scriptures are like, and neither do you. And neither do I. And this mirror that Jesus in some ways puts up to our own brokenness says, treat them in the way not only that you would hope that you would be treated, but treat them in some ways the way that Jesus has treated you. The same kind of love and kingdom that he established on earth and that goes beyond, of self-sacrificial love, kindness, and grace. Now, what Jesus does next is one of my favorite things, because I think Jesus was an amazing teacher. You look through scriptures, the things that he says and the way that he says it are incredible. And so what he says next is almost like this calling people out kind of thing, which I love, Because I almost feel like there's people that are listening that are like, yeah, I don't know about, or and have this angst. It's almost like, in my mind at least, he gets kind of riled up. He says, look, if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. Stop saying you're so great. It's easy to be kind to somebody who is kind to you. It's easy to love somebody who loves you. It's easy to reciprocate. Don't brag about being kind or loving to people. I already love you. That's easy. And if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. Even outsiders do that. Even people that you are frustrated and angry with, they reciprocate love. No. This is different. This is bigger. This is the kingdom of God that is advancing in the world through you. It is you breaking the cycle of brokenness, to not reciprocate whatever that is, but to choose love and grace and kindness even to that person. And just in case you didn't hear me enough, but love your enemies and do good to them. Respect everyone. Yeah, but what about... Yes. But what about... Yes. But you don't know what they did. So. That you respect everyone. That you honor people and that you love them selflessly. Now, if you're not a follower of Jesus, you ready? Here's why I told you that I feel like this could turn you off. Because this is not what our culture teaches. Someone screws you at work, right? You're like, they changed the game. You're like, I'm going to go back. I'm going to figure out how to get them back. Someone messes things up for you, you're like, no, I'm going to come back. When you read it, you feel, are you ready? Weak. Powerless. But the gospel is one. This is what separates Christianity. The gospel is one where it teaches that the God of the universe made himself like us in human form and allowed himself to be killed. And it's in that moment and his resurrection that he then stood in power. Last night I was up around 3 a.m. because, babies. And I was like, how do I say this in a way that's memorable? And I didn't get it, but I did get a sentence that encapsulates it. And I wrote this down last night, and I pushed my chair back. My father-in-law was in the other room, very much asleep, and I was like, oh, I don't want to wake him, but I just sat there in the dark, the laptop screen. Because when I read what I wrote, I was like, I struggle with this as much as anybody else. And it's so hard. The statement is this: your concern for those far from God is most illuminated in the way that you treat those who feel far away from you. I'm going to say it one more time. That your concern for those far from God is most illuminated in the way that you treat those who feel far from you. You know how I know? Because it's easy to love the person who doesn't make you feel uncomfortable. It's, for those of you who are Christians, right? It's easy for you to love non-believers who are nice to you. We talk about together for TCU, we're going to go, all this kind of stuff. In the back of my mind, there's this thing floating. It's like, how often do I mean that just for the people that make me feel okay? How often do I mean that for the people, but then I also have this asterisk, but not this person. That if you want to know where your heart really is when it comes to the mission that God has put your life on, examine your heart at the place where you're the most hurt, and you experience pain, and you feel like someone owes you something. You ready, fellas? Come on, fellas. And someone makes you feel small. Examine your heart in those moments. What does that illuminate about you? Go the extra mile. We love people and we respect people in this way. And the last passage I want to look at is in Colossians chapter 3. And the backstory to this, I want to say this, is it talks about slavery, which was very prominent in this culture. But I feel like as you look at the text, he's talking about slavery, but at the same time, there are so many different people groups and types of people that were subordinated that you could apply what he's talking about in so many different areas. This is Colossians 3. It says this. It says, slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything and do it, not only when their eye is on you. Don't miss this. And to curry or gather their favor, but with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord. It means when you feel like it doesn't go your way, oppression, you feel all those things. In this culture, the writer is looking at them going, love, submission, kindness. And the next verse is the one that we like to put up all over our house, right? This is the one that a lot of you had heard growing up. And whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. That whatever it is that you do, whatever it is that you work towards, those 90,000 hours that you're going to put in, realize that you're not working just for you. It's not inwardly just focused on you. That the person that you're waiting for the applause from is not your boss. It's God. Did you advance that kingdom on the earth? Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. And since you know that, you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. In the moments when you're tempted to disengage and pull back and not lean in, we choose excellence in those moments. We choose to fully engage. We choose to give ourselves, and not just in our skill set and not just in your talents, but to give your heart. I think part of the reason that we find Jesus saying, pray for your enemies, or that sort of thing, is that it postures us to experience the kind of love and submission that isn't really found otherwise. Choosing excellence when you feel disengaged, that's hard. Choosing excellence when you feel like you're going to leave the place anyway, right? It's not where you ultimately want to be, you're going to leave anyway. That's hard. You're saying you're not working for whoever it is that you think you're working for. Because the audience for your behavior is your Savior. So here's what I hope, right? For those of you who are not followers of Jesus, my hope for you is that you actually hire somebody maybe that works here one day and that they apply what we talked about. That'd be great, you know? And if not, I'm sorry, but hopefully they do. My hope for our city is that everyone who says that they're a follower of Jesus, and everyone who says that they are a Christian, and everyone who goes to the marketplace in whatever fashion they go to the marketplace and work, that the people around who are outsiders to the faith might say something like this, that I don't agree with them on religion. I don't even know that I agree with them on morality, but they make the best team members. And what if every boss in Traverse City, right, who had a Christian person working for them said, that person, that's the one I want to give the projects to. That person, that's the person that I trust the most. That person, there's something different there. They work at it differently. They approach it differently. Their life looks different. Why? Because your work isn't about you. It's not just about you. Your work is about how God might use you to do something extraordinary in the lives of people that he's placed around you. So, told you about the steakhouse when I was in college. My friend Hector, what I didn't tell you about Hector is Hector was late 40s, early 50s. Hector had this job that we were at, but he also had another job that he worked at doing the exact same thing. He was bussing tables at 2 different places. He had kids, he had a family. And he would go to at least this place. I don't know what it was like at the other place. He would go to this place, and it would just like constantly just embarrassment. I mean, it felt like it was just getting beat down with the words over and over and over again. And I was getting angry for him. You know what I'm saying? You ever gotten like frustrated for somebody? You just felt this angst, and every time I saw the boss, I was like, I felt it. I was angry, and every time I'd call him out, I would like stand beside him a little bit. Like what am I gonna do? But I'm like, I'm whatever. This punk college kid. And one day I asked him, I was like, why do you put up with that? Like, why do you do that? Why do you allow yourself to sit there and take that sometimes? What do you do? And I'll never forget what he said. He said, I don't work for that man. He said, God put me here for that man. I just sat there, I was like, no, he didn't. You sure? And he smiled and he walked away. And he bussed another table. An hour later, the same thing happened. And I thought to myself, I get frustrated about small things. I don't even know if Hector, I don't know what he thought about everything. I don't know his whole thing, but I know this. That in the deepest way possible, that man had peace that I didn't have. And he had an approach to life that I didn't feel like I had. He was able to look in the most difficult moments and see a person who was broken as human, and a person who was broken as someone who God loved, God sent Jesus to die for, and that God had provided the opportunity for redemption for. So, imagine if every single person who said they were a follower of Jesus in our city, if they always went the extra mile. Imagine if every person who called themselves a follower of Jesus in our city said that they worked with the highest degree of excellence. And then probably even most importantly, imagine if every person who said that they were a follower of Jesus in our city, if people said that they treated everyone with unconventional respect. People wouldn't agree with our theology all the time. People wouldn't agree with the religion thing all the time. People would look at morality different. But here's what I'll tell you, and I'll say this when we wrap up. The early church didn't just grow because they had all the right answers, because they had figured everything out, because they were super organized. They grew with people who applied this kingdom mentality to their own hearts, their own lives, and their work, and it exploded. And I believe that can continue to happen here. That if every person in this room who said they were a follower of Jesus applied those things, and loved like that? That maybe one day someone who was far away from God looked at you, who was applying this, and said, I don't understand how you do it, but can you tell me how you do it? And what you respond with is, I don't do it on my own. That I believe, and you explain. That you are submitted to something that is far beyond you, and it's through that empowerment through Christ that you're able to forgive at times other people can't feel like they can forgive, that you work with a level of excellence that other people don't seem to aspire to, and that you continually go the extra mile when you didn't have to and when no one was looking. And then maybe that curiosity could lead them to a step towards God. Because God uses your work to work in the lives of other people. Sorry. So, today what we're going to do, to wrap up, is typically we'd all stand, if you're kind of familiar with our church, and we'd sing the song, and everybody, you don't have to yet. Oh, actually, I'm going to ask you to sit. But you guys are great at listening. That was good. That was good. You guys killed it. I told you to stand, and then you did. I feel very powerful right now. That was great. Sorry, I told you wrong. Typically, that's what we do. We ask you to stand, and then we sing a song, and everybody's like, yeah, we go out, and whatever. It's great. Today, I'm going to ask you to stay seated, and we're going to play a song that some of our creative team downstate had kind of picked out for the series, and we had originally planned to do it early in the service, and I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to do it at the end, but it's going to feel a little bit different. The song is written by a guy named Ben Rector, who's this traveling singer-songwriter. He's phenomenal music and phenomenal guy. What he does is he writes this song from the perspective that he had of watching people who really applied what we talked about today in real life. And so what I want to do to wrap up our time, I want to pray for us, and then Ryan and Bryce are going to come do the song. What I want to do for the next few minutes, if you're not a follower of Jesus in the room, and you're like, all I have is just, it seems like I just have questions, and that's great, and I'm certainly not going to apply that stuff today. It doesn't feel, I get that, that's great. I'm asking you for the next few minutes to imagine what would happen if everybody that you knew that called themselves a Christian actually applied what we said. For these next few minutes, what would that look like? And then for those of you who are followers of Jesus, I'm going to ask you to do like a heart, difficult question asking thing. I'm going to ask you, which of those things that we talked about do you struggle with? Like, which of those things actually create a barrier between you and other people, even though you might be right? And then this week, what I'm going to ask you to do is do some work and lean in a little bit harder to those areas. So let me pray for us. They're going to do this song, and then we'll wrap up. Let's pray. Father, it feels weird to almost thank you for this truth because for most of us in the room, it creates sometimes more pain than it does relief. Sometimes it feels like we're doing things opposite or that it doesn't feel like it connects. Or sometimes some of us will apply these principles for years or decades and not even see the fruit of it. And it feels like sometimes we're serving an invisible God, and it feels difficult. So what I pray for those of us in the room that would say that we trust you and we follow you is I just pray that you would help us to become those kinds of individuals at work, and that you would help us to apply this so deeply and live our lives in that way. That when people who are outside of the faith look at us, they can say a lot of things about, religion or morality, all sorts of things, but that no one would ever be able to say anything about the way that we gave ourselves to our work. God, help us to know that we're not working for ourselves, but we're working for really an audience of just you. And God, we ask that you would use that in an amazing way. And lastly, I just pray for everybody in the room who's skeptic or unsure about faith or not sure what all this looks like. And I just pray that you would somehow answer their questions through individuals who are doing this. And that even if they don't wrestle this down today or even next week or next month or even a year from now, but at some point soon, God, that you would send somebody who causes them to reevaluate the way that they look at this because they've seen it at least once with somebody who is trusting you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Howard drives a minivan to the cruise ships from Fort Lauderdale. It's been that way since 1994. Does his business on a flip phone with the most obnoxious ringtone. I didn't ask, but I can tell he's from New York. He spoke proudly of his daughter, and that this fall she'd be in college, and that he'd always wished he'd had his degree. You can tell he came from nothing, built a future out of hustling, and somehow I'm the one you people pay to see. No, isn't that just the way it goes? You dealt a good hand, and you get celebrated. And no, how am I the only one who knows I'm half the man of the men that drive me places? Danny showed up early, 15 minutes till 5:30, making sure I'd be on my morning flight. He said he'd love to fix computers, but that he can't until he's fluent, so he spends his driving money taking class at night. He wore a neatly ironed dress shirt, and he helps his kids with homework. Deep inside I couldn't help but ask myself why that night up on stage everybody knows my name. Well, Danny's early picking up somebody else. No, isn't that just the way it goes? You're dealt a good hand, and you get celebrated. No, how am I the only one who knows I'm half the man of the men that drive me places? Now everything's not given. I work hard to make a living. I'll give credit where I think the credit's due. Maybe you got dealt a good hand, maybe you play it best as you can, but I don't know how far you'd walk without those cards in Howard or Danny's working shoes. But that's just the way it goes. You're dealt a good hand, and you get celebrated. No, how am I the only one who knows I'm half the man of the men that drive me places?
Here's what I say to you. All right, as you go into your week, some of you are going back to the exact same job, the exact same tension, the exact same thing. My hope and my prayer for you is that you at least approach it a little bit differently. For those of you who are followers of Jesus, that you walk into that knowing that you're not doing it for, your boss or all those people. You're doing it to advance the kingdom that God has put you on a mission to do. And again, for those of you who are not followers of Jesus, my challenge to you is fairly simple. I hope that God brings somebody, and it's easy, but I would challenge you to try to find somebody who's at least living this way so that you could at least study it. If you're anything like me, that's what I like to do. I just like to study it, I'd like to just unpack it. Find somebody who's working in that way and see and discover what that feels like. So I'll tell you this, next week we are continuing this series and we're wrapping it up, and I'll tell you what we're talking about next week is one of those things that I wish that if I could sit everybody down at, over coffee, which has been a very large coffee, but if I sit everybody down and just tell you something about life and work life, something that I struggle with every single day, this would be one of those things. We're going to be talking about rest and how you balance your life and you kind of get away from some of the overwhelmed feelings. So I'm going to invite you back next week. I think this is something that applies to every single person. We'd love for you to come back and invite somebody with you because it's something that that every single one of us deals with. So that's going to be next week, so we'd love to invite you to that. And again, if you're interested in signing up for Alpha or getting more of your questions answered about faith or skepticism, all those things, you can do that right in the lobby or online at kensingtonchurch.org. Again, thanks so much for being here. We'll see you right back here next Sunday as we continue our series, Work Life. See you soon. Thank you so much for watching online. We're so glad you decided to join us today. Again, next week we're continuing our series, Work Life. We would love for you to be a part of it. Again, as I just said, it's going to be one of those messages that I wish I could sit everybody down to explain it to you, because it's something that I'm constantly working with in my own life. It's one of those things that has extraordinary benefits. So we would love for you to join us live. If you're here in Northern Michigan area, you can join us right here at our Traverse City campus. If you're down in Metro Detroit, we also have campuses all over Metro Detroit that you can do, or even in Orlando, Florida. So we'd love for you to join us at one of our campuses live. If not, we'd love to see you right back here next Sunday at either 9 or 11 right here online. We'll see you soon.